concrete walls. There's a place for us where we could go, where we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in our secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
What's up, you guys? It is Sunday afternoon. It's time for for the Q&A live stream. How's it going, everybody? I was listening to at the beginning of every stream, I listen to the playback go out just so I can check and make sure there's no echo, but it introduces just a little bit of delay because I'm hearing my own voice in my head. So I talk, "What's up, everybody? It's time for the live stream." And I realized I was accidentally doing a Bill Cosby impression. All the comedians over the years who built up a Bill Cosby impression now can't do it anymore. Good afternoon, everybody. Greenville, South Carolina. Hello. Mika Bienview. Hello from 30,000 feet. You are in an airplane. You can't be streaming on an airplane? That's not possible. Is that possible? Skadoosh is here. Hey, Skadoosh. Skadoosh, I believe you're in China. How you feeling, Skadoosh? You feeling all right? And no flu, right, dude? Take care of yourself, man. Hello from Mumbai. Nishant Gahanate. Hello from Mumbai. Robert Rempel from Canada. Yeah, everybody's here. Lithuania. We're in the future. They have internet on the planes in the future. Hell yeah. Phoenix, Arizona. We're just going to spend the whole live stream shouting out where people are from. That's it. That's going to be the whole live stream. I'm changing the name right now. Hello from Israel, Switzerland. Hello, ni hao. Ni hao. Ni hao. Yeah, we're drinking a Diet Coke today, Simon. You know, sometimes you get a little crazy and you have a Diet Coke. Get a little crazy. Wyoming. Rick, do they have internet in Wyoming? Wow. So that's really impressive. I have to clean my glasses before every stream because the lights. Oh my god, you guys, you can't see this. I did some metal work for my wife yesterday. She needed something cut off of something, and I went at it with an angle grinder. And I didn't wear protective glasses, and sure enough, now there is a fleck of burning metal got on my glasses, and now it's melted the lens just slightly. What are you gonna do? It's Sunday afternoon. It's time for the Q&A live stream, where, despite popular belief, we do not spend the whole live stream shouting out people's nationality. We're going to answer questions. I'm going to answer your questions. Here's how it's going to work. This is my... Oh my god. Wow. That is a screen grab, my friends. That is a screen grab to Okay, you win. You win the live stream. Thank you, Mike Cattees in the Discord, for that. Scarecrow FPV, my puppy ate my glasses yesterday. I feel you. Scarecrow, I used to have a friend who was an optician, and she said that glasses and cell phones are very commonly eaten by dogs because they smell like you, and the dog just, I don't know. Yeah, Zenny Optical. Zenny Optical is where I buy glasses. I'm used to paying, way too much money for glasses in Zenny Optical. I just started ordering from there, and now that's where I get glasses from. So, okay. So here's what we're gonna do. You guys are gonna ask questions. I'm gonna answer questions. Anybody new here? Anybody not know how it works? It's very simple. You ask a question in the chat. I answer the question. We do that for about 2 hours. See, here's Ethan RC. Ethan just got his first FPV set up. He has the Quantum Cyclops goggles and flying with the Hobby King. I'm using a cheap plug-and-play camera. Can someone explain how FPV works? Yikes. How does FPV work? That is... Okay, so, there's a camera, and the camera captures the image, and then the video transmitter is basically just like a little television station. It's literally like a little television station. And then, the goggles are like a little television receiver. So, there you go. That's pretty much it. But before we do questions, let's get to some news of the day. And to tell you the truth, I don't have a ton of news to talk about today. If you guys have thoughts about what stuff we should get during the news of the day, by all means, pop it up in the chat, and I'll do my best. But I'll tell you one thing that I definitely want to make sure I mention is this protest at the FAA headquarters, hosted by the UFDA crew. Michael Rhodes is the guy who set it up and the organizer. It is February 28th and 29th at Hancock Park in Washington, D.C. And I'm going to be going. A whole lot of other people I know are also going. The Rotorat crew is going. So if you can make it out, definitely make it out. And if you can't make it out, if you can't make it out, then by all means, where's my video? By all means, fill out a comment, okay? Here we go. Here's my video. By all means, go fill out a comment if you haven't. Go fill out a comment if you haven't. Watch this video of mine. I'm not gonna play it on the live stream and waste your time, but watch this video because you need to know why the comment is important and how to do it. Okay. FetTech 45 amp ESC. What's going on with FetTech? Oh, I know something about FetTech. FetTech is the KISS. It's the new project by the guy who makes the KISS stuff. And FetTech ESC, of course, is exciting. Anytime KISS makes a new ESC, it's pretty freaking amazing. But I heard from some beta testers that KISS is going to support OSD. Now, it's always bugged me that KISS doesn't support built-in OSD. You have to have an external OSD board, and that's cumbersome. I never liked it. And so how is KISS? And when I heard that KISS was going to have built-in OSD, my first thought was, are they releasing a new flight controller? No. They're releasing a new OSD that's compatible with the DJI goggles. How about that? Because you don't need any hardware, because the flight controller doesn't process the signal. The goggles just read the data from the flight controller, and the goggles draw the OSD. So KISS going to have support for DJI OSD. That's kind of exciting. KISS flight controller, not like the band Ethan RC. That's kind of exciting. I've always said that, like, KISS, don't make me put multi-Wii OSD, MW OSD. Oh, KISS, don't make me go back. If KISS had an OSD, then I'd give it a fair shot. And that's been one of the things that has stopped me from, like, I don't know. I'm fundamentally, this is gonna surprise a lot of you, but I'm fundamentally a very lazy person. By which I mean, not that I don't work hard, because they put out 5 videos a week and 2 live streams. Obviously, I'm capable of putting in hard work, but I don't want to do new and unfamiliar things. I like to do things that I'm already comfortable with, as you could tell if you watch my freestyle flying. Because I just keep doing the same stuff over and over again. So when it comes to learn a new thing, I'm resistant. Anyway. What about the EV300D? I'm so glad you asked that. Oh my goodness, guys. The EV300D, in case you're not, paying attention, EV300D is a $300-ish goggle with 1280 by 960 resolution, 44-ish degree field of view. In other words, the EV300D has kind of the same specs as the HDO2 and the Orca in terms of resolution and field of view, the same specs, but it's like half the price. So WTF is up with that? Well, that's a good question, and that's why I hope you will keep an eye out on my channel this week for my review. I've already recorded it. It has gone to the guy who helps me edit some of my videos. It is currently scheduled for Monday. Oh no, he may not have it edited by Monday. Hang on, boop, boop. There we go. Tuesday. This is my editorial calendar. In case you don't know, you can check out what's coming up on my channel. So probably Monday. Oh, Monday. See, I don't even usually do Monday videos, but I have so much good content I got to get out that I shoehorned in a Monday video. Monday is the Tango 2 review. Tuesday, I guess, will be the EV300D. So look forward to that. But what you really want to know, let me just give you some value here. The latency question that Painless 360 reported, I can confirm. Latency issue is real. There you go. Never let it be said I don't give something to the people who come to my live streams. Finfish. Stop it. Stop it, Finfish. Put user in timeout. You're timed out, dude. You're timed out. Stop it. Stop spamming. Yeah, everybody can confirm it. So I hope that Eachine is able to fix this. I'm totally spoiling my review, but oh well. I hope that Eachine can fix this in a firmware update. I am scared that this latency issue has to do with the display that they have is not LCD. It's not OLED. It's a technology called LCOS. And I'm scared that LCOS inherently has high latency. I don't know if that's true because nobody complained about the EV200D and it also had LCOS, so maybe they can fix it. Eachine says they're going to fix it in a firmware update. That would be fantastic, but that's, I mean, what are they going to, I withhold judgment until they do it because, like, think about it. If you are Eachine and this problem exists, what are you, you're going to say, oh yeah, no, we're going to fix it. Definitely. That's just what you're going to say. When they do, it's not 300 milliseconds lost, Johnny. It's about 100, which is still a fail. It's still a fail. But, yeah. So Eachine is, yeah, that's a shame because it's very good goggles. G-Man 1672 says, will there be a video in the future about the Radiomaster T16S? Yes, definitely. Personally, would you buy it? Do you know why it's so cheap? Here's what I think about that, G-Man. So, yeah, the Radiomaster T16S it's essentially the same design as the Jumper. The founder of Radio Master was partnered with the founder of Jumper, and then they had some kind of a disagreement and they split. But they both agreed that they could make the same radio, basically. And so Radio Master didn't copy or clone. It's literally the same guys who were making the Jumper. The only thing is, we have to see if there's any manufacturing problems, right? In any new product, there's a chance that the factory has screwed up and just made a product with too many mistakes. Jumper has a decent track record at this, although the last batch of radios that went out before Chinese New Year had all kinds of problems with the ribbon cables, and the ribbon cables were not fully inserted or they were flipped over backwards. So many people have had these problems, and it's a shame because Jumper had a really good track record of delivering mostly not effed up product. Hopefully they'll go back to that. So the first batch of Radio Masters, we're going to need to see whether Radio Master has their quality control and their manufacturing locked up. Assuming they do, though, I think it's going to be a great radio. Now, I can tell you that Jumper will be releasing a USB-C modification that Jumper is going to update the T16 to USB-C with internal charging, and they're going to be releasing a mod that you can do to your existing Jumper to give it USB-C and internal charging. I can confirm that. I just found out about that a couple days ago. The other question is the price. Why is the Radio Master so much cheaper? And it just has to be competition. Radio Master knows that they're releasing basically the exact same radio as the T16. So they're just going to take a bite out of their profits, I guess. I can't imagine that Radio Master has just figured out how to make the radio cheaper. I would guess that they're just taking a smaller margin. Although, to go from 160 down to 130, what is that? 135 out of 160, that's 15%. That's a pretty big, typical retail margin is maybe 25 or 30%. If you're selling direct, it may be as much as 40 or 50%. I guess that I could see that. I'm going to guess that Jumper is also going to reduce their price, though, to match. Either that or Radio Master is an introductory pricing and they're going to raise it. Don't know. GB7000 in the Discord says, I'm glad I haven't bought the battery mod kit Joshua did yet. I want Type-C. I got to tell you, I basically agree, GB7000. I really love what that battery kit guy is doing. I dig that kind of small business entrepreneurship. And I really love having the 21700 batteries in. Oh my God, these 21700s, the 5000 milliamp hours, last so much longer than the 18650s did. It's so good. But USB-C charging means that you can charge anywhere without having to have a special adapter. See, right now I have one adapter that can charge my radio. If I leave it at home, I'm screwed. So yeah, definitely the USB-C charging is going to be really cool. People are talking about the TBS Tango 2 in the Discord. MBFPV says, I didn't get the Tango 2 Pro because I feel like I'd collapse the sticks while flying. I got to tell you, MB, the collapsible sticks on the Tango 2 are very good. They don't collapse by accident. Just doesn't happen. You didn't make the wrong decision, but nah, it's fine. /7 FPV in the Discord wants to know, do you have direct contact to Chinese FPV production? What's the situation with workers in Corona? When do they expect to be back in full service? /7, I have contact with a few people, but I don't really know anything that's not public because they're being very open about the situation. I know that iFlight went back to work. I know that HQ went back to work. I just saw this on their Facebook. It seems like they are starting to go back to work. However, guys, I also am talking to retailers who are saying this has really screwed us over because the whole month of January, everybody is on Chinese New Year, and all the retailers prepare to not be able to get gear. And then now the fact that they've been out for 2 or 3 more weeks, now people are really starting to run out of stock, and you're going to start noticing it. Hopefully it gets moving again, so I don't know. Sander Pooh wants to know, when the sticks are collapsed, do they scratch the surface of the transmitter? Sander, I don't think so. They collapse and they're sort of inside the gimbal. I guess it's possible they could scratch it, but I don't. Yeah, that's possible. It's possible. Maybe you would want to get some kind of like a stick end to put on there to keep it from scratching. Don't know. There was one more thing I wanted to show you guys in my news of the day. Before, I want to go just jump back, and then we'll take some more questions. By the way, I also have a super chat I need to get to. Don't worry. I am so proud of myself, and I want to just brag for a minute. And it's so dumb because it's like, you know, it's like when your 5-year-old brings home a frickin', you know how you trace your hand and make a turkey for Thanksgiving? People in Europe, I'm not sure if you know what we're talking about, but like your 5-year-old brings home an arts and crafts project from school and you're like, really good, Johnny. It looks good, man. You did a good job there, kid. But look at this. Look at this. Why did it suddenly went hollow? I don't know why it did that. Look what I made. I made this in Fusion 360, guys. I made a box. This is for a project that I'm working on, and I modeled it in Fusion 360. Oh my God. In fact, I'm actually going to change it. Look what I did. I even used parameters, guys. The length needs to be only 50 millimeters. See, look. It works. Oh, I need to change that to 2. Yeah. Okay, well, anyway. I'm so proud of myself. I need to change that dimension. Yeah, oops. Anyway. Yay. It's going to be a box that has smoke stopper bulbs in it, but also it is going to have an on-off switch that lets you bind more easily and so forth. I originally was going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 here, but I'm going to change it and only have 2 and a switch. And anyway, but I'm so proud of myself for having done this. It doesn't have screw holes yet. There's no way to attach the lid to the box. So I'm going to have to do some cylinders with threaded inserts or something. I don't know. I'll figure it out, but Fusion 360 is so cool. Yeah. Scarecrow FPV, have you found a good channel to follow for learning 3D printing design? Yeah. The guy I'm watching, and like people are like, when are you going to start making tutorials? And I'm like, never, because there's so many great tutorials out there that I will never do it as good as these people. The guy I'm following is Lars Christensen. His Fusion 360 tutorials are amazing. And he's got tutorials, but he also does live streams. And I find he does a live stream where he's like, we're going to make a bench. And he models it. And just watching him work on real projects is so cool. But this guy, to me, I'm just trying to soak it up, man. He's so good at Fusion 360, and I'm learning so much from him. So, yep. That is my first model, Peter Pan. To be fair, Peter Pan, I've taken like 4 stabs at it before I got to this point. It's so cool just having the way that I learn best is to have a problem that I'm trying to solve. So I'm like, okay, I want to make these 2 holes in the lid, but I need the holes to be at a certain ratio and symmetrical. Go. You know, so anyway. Vote Squad says Lars is okay. He's only okay? Who's better, Vote Squad? Tell me who's better. No, really, tell me who's better. What's a good radio that's great for FPV and other RC stuff, says Andre Knez. Jumper T16 or the Radio Master TX16S. Von Zek. Oh, Von Zek, I don't want to offend you, but you really let us down with the battery testing thing. Is it dead? Nope, the battery testing is not dead, Von Zek. I've talked about this in the past. The short version is that I realized that it would take way more labor than I was capable of putting in to be able to produce meaningful results, because the battery testing is not meaningful if I'm only testing 1 or 2 batteries, and I just have way too much time making videos. So I spent like a year trying to hire someone and train someone to do it, and each time it fell through for various reasons. But the good news is that right now, there's a guy who I found a guy who he had his own battery testing spreadsheet, and he actually already owned a West Mountain CBA, just the small one, not the 2,000 watt one that I have. And I said, you want to work with me? So then a major vendor sent literally every battery they sell to him. So right now, literally this month, there's a guy who I mailed him my battery tester, and he is testing like 30 batteries and working his way through. And I'm really proud that we finally made this happen, because this is going to be a huge database of information about these batteries. And I fully expect that, I'm not going to say which vendor it is because I feel like that it's not time for that yet, but I expect that when other vendors see what we've done, they'll also follow suit. And I hope to have just this giant database of battery data all at once. And so, yeah. Yeah. So there you go. It's not Mute FPV. I tried to, Mute FPV is so good. I asked Mute FPV if he wanted to do module testing for my channel, because he does great testing, but maybe, for example, he doesn't have the resources to buy a bunch of modules or whatever. But he didn't feel like that was something he would want to commit to. So, yeah, the battery testing, I also was disappointed in my ability to manifest that. So, I mean, yeah, there's nothing to say. All I can say is that I did my best. I just don't have the skill at hiring and training people. That's a skill. I know it sounds like, well, just hire somebody and then they do the work. Well, I'm just not good at that. So when I realized that I wasn't able to do the battery testing myself because of the amount of time it would take, I started trying to hire somebody, and it just took like a year to finally find somebody who could do it. So, but it is well on its way to going again. So looking forward to that. I'm also going to be, the other thing that has held me up in the past was wanting to design a website that presents the data in a usable way. And I was working with a web developer. We had anyway, that project got halfway done and wasn't right and kind of sputtered out. And so in this case, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to put the results out as a Google spreadsheet, so, so that's not a roadblock. So there you go. Anyway. That's the deal with the battery testing. Nix in the Discord says, if you're just a regular pleb without frames being sent to you for testing, how much do you think you could justify spending on a frame? That's a tough one, Nix. I mean, if there's a frame that you love for whatever reason, I mean, I could imagine spending $60 or $70 on a frame if I really loved it. But I got to say, there are some really solid frames out there for 30 or 40 bucks or less. And I think, like, for the average person, like, look at the TBS Source 1, right? That's not everybody will think that the Source 1 is like the best frame for them. But there's like, it's not a terrible frame if you want to do freestyle, and it's like 25 bucks. And when there's a frame as good as the TBS Source 1 or the Rotorite CL1 is solid. The what's the other one on my website? My point is, there are tons of reasonably good frames out there for 20 or 40 bucks. So I think a lot of people are going to struggle to want to spend 100 bucks or more on a frame. Pardon me. The big thing, the more expensive frames sometimes give you is a warranty. I mean, if you can get a $100 frame with a lifetime warranty, I'm thinking of like Flynoceros has a warranty. A frame with a lifetime warranty, well, now you go, okay, well, I'll spend 100 bucks on it and then I'll just never buy another frame again. That's different. Ghost Branch FPV wants to know if I can get people access to the Liftoff Duga map. I cannot. I mean, I could. I'm not going to give out the beta code and piss off the Liftoff devs. It's coming soon. They said maybe even this coming week. So I don't know. Yeah, Cash, I do consult my own website for information. That's, why. That's one of the reasons why I made it. Let me get this super chat out of the way. Rice's Life left a super chat. We are now almost half hour into the stream. Not a lot of super chats coming in. In case you guys didn't know, if you want to make sure that I get to your question, then hit that $sign down at the bottom of the chat. Leave a super chat. Throw a couple bucks at my face. It'll make sure that I get to your question. Not necessarily quickly, as Rice's Life has learned. He left his comment 20 minutes ago. Well, 15. Rice's Life, thank you for $10 in the super chat. How do I adjust the settings for liftoff or Velocidrone? I've been using Velocidrone lately, but there's no good settings for me to follow. It falls out of the air too quickly compared to my actual quad. Okay, Rice's Life. So the first thing that everyone should do, if you feel that the simulator settings are not right, is make sure that you're getting minimum 60 frames per second. For reasons which sound stupid to people who aren't game devs, but which are very real to game devs, the frame rate of the graphics affects the physics calculations. Why should that be? I don't know. Every game dev, every simulator developer I've talked to says that the frame rate affects the physics and there's nothing they can do about it. And then normal people go, why? And you go, I don't know. But if you're not getting minimum 60 frames per second, the physics are off, and ideally more. But in Velocidrone, there is the low FPS warning. Set that low FPS warning to 60 frames per second, and if you're not getting at least 60 frames per second, then lower the graphics settings. If you just want to, like what I used to do before I really started thinking about this, is I would fly every simulator on the lowest settings, just the lowest graphical settings to max my frame rate, and that helps the physics along. The other thing that's difficult is that, like, people say, oh, it drops out of the air it's too floaty. But like gravity's gravity. That's the easiest thing to get right, is 9.8 meters per second per second. You can try to adjust the physics to get it to feel more right. And obviously it's your experience, so you can make it however you want. If it falls out of the air too quickly, I mean, you could always just reduce gravity, but that's not, I think a lot of the time it may be things like the camera field of view or other things that make it feel like the physics aren't right. But these guys put a ton of effort into getting the physics to match reality. And I think a lot of times when people feel like it doesn't match reality, there's something else going on. Darks FPV, thank you for £1. DVS FPV, thank you for $2. Can you answer EV's question? He won't stop asking it. Who is EV? Where's EV? Well, for $2, I guess. EV is looking for a high-end Popo motor for freestyle setup. Do you know anything about the 2306 Johnny FPV cinematic motor? Yeah, EV, so the 2306 Johnny FPV motor, I was surprised to see that Johnny did this. His original motors were 2207, and it seemed like people were moving away from 2306, especially for somebody using, Johnny's Azure Power prop is a 4838. It is a small, low-pitch prop, and especially for somebody like this, I feel like 2700 kV 2207 makes a lot of sense. The higher kV will match the smaller prop and help get the most thrust from it while still remaining smooth. I was really surprised that Johnny shifted to a 2306. I'm sure he has good reasons for doing that. Maybe he wants even more linearity in the throttle, less of that 2207 sort of pop at the top end. Maybe it's because he's doing a lot more sort of cruising and building diving. That would be my guess. We could just ask Johnny and see what he says. MBFPV says the Johnny prop is actually 5 inches. Why is it 4838 then? Regardless, 5038 is still a low pitch prop. Pardon me. So, The DJ Pop, it is not that the computer is losing power for physics processing. It has something to do with the synchronization of the physics frames and the graphics frames. It's not about CPU power. It's something else. I don't know. Going back to the motors, my guess is that Johnny used to do traditional freestyle more. And in traditional freestyle, especially his juicy style, there's a lot of pops and flings. And a 2207 motor will have some sort of pop at the top end and higher RPMs at the top end that are suitable for that style of flying. A 2306, and to be fair, the difference is very small. It's very minor, and a lot of pilots wouldn't even notice the difference. So I'm not trying to like overstate it, but a 2306 is going to have a little less pop and a little bit less top end RPM, but a little more linearity, especially in the bottom part of the throttle. And maybe for the style of flying Johnny's doing now, where he's doing more cruising, building dives, chasing cars, like less sort of poppy freestyle, maybe the 2306 makes sense. I don't think you go wrong with this motor. I mean, Luminaire makes a good motor, and Johnny is a good pilot. If you want Popo, your options are pretty limited. There are not as many Popo motors out there as there are standard shaft motors. So yeah, this is not a bad choice. Thank you, Cash, for $5. Big thanks for having such a useful index of parts and resources. Even you consult it. Just got the new build in the air thanks to you, so I'm giving back. Thank you, Cash. Tony Briz is showing an example of what the throttle curve for a 2207 versus 2306 might be. Yeah, this is the sort of the torque band moves down a little bit. But also, it's not just that, but it's also just a little more linear, a little more controllable, especially at the bottom. What's the best Acrobat setup? Sin of Lust asks. Well, it's got to be what Tommy himself flies, isn't it? RC Funds Diversions wants to know, I'm getting jello in my footage. Could it be the props? I'm not noticing it in the FPV goggles. RC Funds... if you're getting jello, first of all, it's very common not to see jello in the FPV goggles because the standard definition feed and the lower frame rate hides the jello. What can you do about jello? Well, it definitely could be the props. It could be the motors. It could be the frame. However, the single biggest thing you can do if you're getting jello is use an ND filter. An ND filter, if you want to check out Paul Nurkola's YouTube channel, he has some videos about ND filters, but the short version is that the ND filter lets less light into the camera lens. Now, that you would think that's a bad thing. Usually with cameras, you're struggling to get enough light in. But especially if you're flying in the bright daylight, there's so much light coming in that the shutter speed gets very fast. And as a result, you get a lot of sharpness. But for motion, you don't want too much sharpness. And in fact, you can get this sort of stuttering effect that shows up as jello. For quadcopters and for flying, if you use an ND filter, it slows down your shutter speed. It creates more motion blur. And that is actually more pleasing for the kind of flying that we do. It's a backwards way of thinking, because most of the time with photography, you want to stop motion and get a sharp photograph without too much blur. But for motion, especially fast motion like FPV, you want some motion blur. And just using an ND filter can hide that jello. My favorite ND filter is Camera Butter. Camera Butter is stick-on ND filters for your GoPro. Every ND filter is a trade-off. You can get expensive optical glass ones, but you need a special GoPro holder, like a 3D printed holder to hold it on. Polar Pro makes some that stick onto the front of GoPro 6s and 7s instead of the lens protector, but they're super expensive. They're like $60 a piece, and when you break it, you're boned. So the idea with these is it's still glass. If you break it, you're still boned, but you're only out $10. And these ND filters, if you have jello, this is absolutely what you need to be trying. You're not going to believe what a difference it makes. However, as Scarecrow points out, make sure every single screw in your quad is tight. Use fresh props, see how it looks. The thing is, you got to be able to discern between jello, which is kind of a ripply waviness in the video, and vibrations. Vibrations are always going to be motors, props, loose screw, etc. Jared, that's a very good question. Jared in the Discord asks, I was going to flash JESC onto my B brain, and the ESCs are YH10. I don't see any Y options in the ESC firmware list in JESC configurator. Jared, I'm going to guess that the B brain is new enough that that ESC design hasn't been compiled in. Just a guess, but I'm willing to bet if you wait for JESC to update, then you'll find that it's there. Let's see here. Anthony Short, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Anthony's configuring GPS rescue and wants to know how to pick the right value for GPS rescue throttle hover. Well, first of all, let's just search Google and remind ourselves, and by ourselves I mean me, what GPS rescue throttle hover is. Let's try that. Huh. Is it not here? Uh-oh. Is it so new that it's not even there? Hover throttle. Let's see here. The short version is I don't know the answer off the top of my head. I have not done a lot of playing with GPS Rescue after my initial video where I set it up. Ooh, here we go. We're getting somewhere. Because it's just not reliable. It can get a sanity check and fall out of the sky sort of unpredictably. Let's see. It looks like it's new. Well, here Quadrophenia is suggesting a GitHub link. Yeah. Let's see. Hover throttle. Looks like it's used to manage the quad's ability to land. Yeah, well, throttle position for hover. Yeah, Ryan Beal. I mean, that's what you would guess. It seems like there's not a lot of documentation out there on it. Unfortunately, I don't know the answer either. But my gut feeling would be that you set it to your hover throttle position. So you look at what throttle position your quad hovers at. If your quad hovers at 50% throttle, I would set that to 1500. Steve M., do you have any advice on tuning that? I mean, I found the same GitHub page you did. Well, since it was a super chat, I do want to make a fair effort at answering it, but I don't actually know the answer. It looks like it's relatively new. It's not even added to the wiki yet, so I would set it to your hover position, though. Okay, moving on. Thank you for your donation, Anthony Short. Darks FPV, thank you for £2. T16 Pro second Lewis scripts page, like the X9D. You mean, Darks FPV, I'm sorry, I'm not following your question. You want to update the Lewis script to start on the second page? Yeah, they've changed the Lewis script around so that it's not in the same place that it was. I do know that. Do I have a copy of that somewhere on my hard drive? All right, let's see what we got. So this is my T16 SD card backup. Here is the betaflight.lua. Let's see if we can figure out. Oh, it's not there. Scripts/BF. So in scripts, BF, there we go. I'm going to guess UI.lua. That's where I'm going to start. Let's see. Where do they move it to? No. Draw menu. I know it's here. I'm looking for the array of page names. If we knew the name of a page, we could search for it. Well, radios.lua. It's at the start of the file. Kasiba. I know where it used to be Kasiba. Which file was it at? Was it in UI? No. Page equals nil, page status. Anyway, there is an array in here, but I don't know where they've moved it to. And I only want to spend so much time on the live stream digging for it. Kasiba, if you can find it, I'll put it up on the live stream. Next level code, thank you for $5. My drone CPU goes from 20% to 40% when I enable set PID process denom equals 1. Do I really need to set this? 40% CPU is okay. I mean, you're just running a faster gyro rate, and but 40% is fine. It's normal that it would go up. I don't suggest you do that stuff in the CLI. I guess probably you're restoring an old config. But yeah, 40% CPU utilization is fine. Next level. Don't worry about that. Kent Crewer, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Watched your vids on the Giatone GTR 369. Is that the best 3-inch currently? Nah, I don't think so. I mean, Kent, even I said that the 349 I thought was better than the 369. The 349 and the 369 are both good. Is that the best 3-inch? I mean, it depends on what you want. For a heavier 3-inch, you know, like, it's not quite up to the level of an Acrobrat. The 349 doesn't carry a GoPro, but for what it is, I think it's a really good one. If you want high def recording, I like the HX115. It's more a toothpick style though than the 369. I think you're going to struggle to get a tarsier into the 369. The 369 and the 349 have like no spare room. Somewhere out there, there's someone who did it, but I don't think there's any additional room in the stack for you to get it in there. I think the 349 could be one of the best 3 inches available, but the 3-inch market has been so aggressive lately. There's so much good stuff coming out. I would definitely get the Unify version if you did get one. General Zorg, excuse me, guys. General Zorg, thank you for 20 pounds. I connected the 5-volt LEDs to my X-Rotor F4 flight controller, but they don't light up. I mean, they need to be connected to the LED strip output, and then in the LED strip, you need to, in the LED settings, you need to configure them. They won't light up by default. 661 FPV points out they do make an HD version of the 349 with a split cam. Well, that's pretty cool. I hadn't seen that. Oh, yes, I had. It's on my freaking website. Derp. Gee, Joshua. Look at your own website. Hello. This one? You mean this one? Yeah. What's the best 3-inch HD freestyle quad? You mean this? The GT349 HD? On my own freaking website? Oh, I don't know. If you could get a split camera in there, it seems like it might be completely impossible. Okay. Well, I'm dumb. There you go. Yeah, it's not a tarsier, though, because as 661 FPV points out, you can't get the dual lens in there. General Zorg, message me on Facebook and let's work through this. I would want to check your wiring. I would want to check your resource configuration, and I would want to check your LED configuration to see that it was all sort of correct. But we're not going to do that here on the live stream. So message me on Facebook, General Zorg, and thank you for your 20-pound donation. Danny Boy, thanks for $5. How do I diagnose one ESC not detecting in my 4-in-1? When I first went to flash it, ESC detection seems sporadic with one not working. Danny Boy, I mean, it's either the signal wire or the ESC is toast, right? There's not a lot to, I mean, resolder the signal wire, check the pins and plugs if it's a 4-in-1, but either the hardware is damaged or the wiring is bad. So check the wiring, and if that's not it, then it seems like the ESC might be toast. That's unfortunate. I wish I had a better, happier answer for you. MTB Lookout, thanks for $2. Can I do throttle on a switch with Jumper TX? Sure, absolutely, MTB Lookout. I think the simplest way to do throttle on a switch is with a channel override in the special function screen. I'm pretty sure Stingy showed how to do it in the Rotor Riot throttle on a switch video. If you're not, if just saying use a special function to override doesn't click for you, that's how to do it. Stingy shows how to do it in that video. Cloud Chaser, thanks for $2. Just curious on the G-Force tab in the OSD. Barometer? No, accelerometer. G-forces come from the accelerometer. Their acceleration. What transmitter and receiver will give longest range? We're going back to the pleb chat, guys. Plebs! Too many super chats came in all at once, and I ignored the plebs for too long. It's so good to be back with the people who are real. Not all those people giving super chats. All those rich people throwing money. No, back down in the pleb chat with the real folks. It's good to be back, guys. Which transmitter and receiver will give the longest range? I am assuming you mean control link, and in that case, Crossfire is the one that most people are going to go for. I mean, like 400 megahertz systems like Dragon Link will go further, but Crossfire is just such a great package and has more range than most people will ever need. So I would say Crossfire. I do know one person who emails me regularly is running Dragon Link, and I'm like, wow, who still runs Dragon Link? Well, this guy. Popular Mechanics, if he actually just means like throttle limit on a switch, I do have a video about that as well. Rob Surf, did Betaflight 3.5 use less battery, less sag than Betaflight 4X? No. Betaflight 4X, people have asked that. I just don't think that's true. I wonder if Betaflight 4.1 changed the way the battery readout works, so you see the sag more. But I don't see any way that it could have like made a big difference in flight times. Doesn't seem realistic. Dion Putgeiter, does Crossfire work with any FreeSky radio? No. Well, yes, but no. So Dion, Crossfire can be made to work with any FreeSky radio so far. But like, for example, if you have the QX7 or the X10, you have to do a thing called the inverter mod to it. Or in software, you have to like slow it down so the latency goes up in order to make it work. If you have a FreeSky, if you're trying to buy a FreeSky radio today and you want to use Crossfire with it, the X9D 2019 edition has a JR module. You have to flash OpenTX to it, but it is not hardware nerfed, so that would be an okay choice. Of course, the Jumper T16 and the soon-to-come Radio Master support Crossfire without any mods at all. The thing about FreeSky and Crossfire is FreeSky has demonstrated that they will break their own radio in order to prevent you from using Crossfire. And they did that when they changed the QX7. The first release, the QX7, worked with Crossfire without any modifications. Then they changed a component in the QX7 to break Crossfire compatibility, and they didn't tell anybody that they'd done it. It was just figured out by people who were like, why is this suddenly not working? I believe that FreeSky radios ship with a custom FreeSky build of OpenTX on them, and they do not include the Crossfire Lua script in the SD card contents. I could verify. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think that's true. I could just download that real quick and check. But So FreeSky has demonstrated that they will do things to prevent you from using Crossfire. So even if you bought a radio and Crossfire worked today, I wouldn't be sure that they wouldn't find a way to make it not work tomorrow. And if you really want to run Crossfire, I think you have to think hard about just investing in a company that actively supports that. And right now, the companies who actively support that, well, of course, TBS does. TBS radios, the Tango 2 runs Crossfire. That's all it runs. Radio Link and Jumper, Spectrum X9D supports Crossfire, and Futaba. So if you were committed to Crossfire, you can make FreeSky work, and you probably will be fine. But you have to know that the vendor is working against you, and you never know if they're going to win. To me, that's a problem. Euro, what happens? How do you know if you have the first run of the QX7S? Euroa asks in the pleb chat. Plebs. What up for plebs? The way you know if you need to do the inverter mod is Crossfire control works fine, but the Lewis script times out all the time, and you constantly get telemetry errors, either sensor lost or telemetry lost. That's how you know if you need to do the inverter mod. Kasiba confirms that FreeSky radios are shipping without Crossfire support. You know, you're right, Kasiba. The Nirvana radio from FlySky also supports Crossfire natively. That's a good point. Thank you, Dank FPV, for $5 in the super chat. Thanks, JB, for helping me so many times with your videos. Oh, thank you. Turf Smurf, thank you for $5. Binding FreeSky access with telemetry off, but it still comes up with telemetry on. Does access... I guess I'm curious why you're binding with telemetry off, Turf Smurf. The normal reason to bind with telemetry off would be because you're doing redundant receivers. Is that what you're doing? I would want to see exactly what you're doing with the binding. Access is a little screwy. But you should be able to bind with telemetry off because Access does support... Access supports native redundancy. Access handles redundancy differently than ACCST did. I'm not sure whether the whole telemetry off thing really... Yeah. Less latency with telemetry off, 661 FPV? That's interesting. I mean, I would always run telemetry, but... Mike Katiz says in the Discord, I think everybody forgot about the Nirvana. Yeah, so here's the deal with the Nirvana. The Nirvana, the hardware, either you love or you hate the form. Some of you guys don't even know what I'm talking about. Hang on. This is the FlySky Nirvana. The FlySky Nirvana is a radio that was put out in partnership between Underground FPV and FlySky. Underground FPV basically did the design. FlySky did the manufacturing. That's not 100% true, but it's mostly true. And either you love or you hate the form factor. Okay, some people hate it, some people love it. That's neither here nor there. That's just a personal decision. Some people like pineapple on pizza. They're not wrong. They're not right. It just is. But the thing is that Underground FPV, shortly after it came out, just really, in my opinion, they really dropped the ball with customer support. I heard that the owner's house had a fire, and that certainly didn't help. But the bottom line was, I kept hearing from people who were like, I ordered and it didn't ship. And here's what I do, guys. Here's how I handle the situation, because I don't know. If you've ever worked in customer service, you know lots of customers are just completely off their rocker, right? They're like, I bought this thing. And they're like, well, you didn't even buy it from our store, sir. And they're like, what are you going to do about this? You know, so when I get complaints from people and they say, vendor X screwed me over. They took my money and they shipped me a box of rocks with a piece of poop on top of it. I don't assume that they're telling the truth or not. What I do is I forward the complaint back to the vendor. And I say, hey, so-and-so sent me a complaint. Just thought you'd want to know about it. And then I watch what happens. And if the vendor is like, oh, they take care of it and they keep me in the loop and I see that they do good customer service. Sometimes the vendor comes back and goes, yeah, no, that guy, that didn't, here's the deal. And they tell me the way. I'm like, okay. But if I forward a complaint to a vendor and I don't get what I think is a response that is excellent customer service by my standards, I kind of pay attention. And I got a bunch of complaints from people about the Nirvana and specifically about Underground FPV's shipping and customer support. And I forwarded them on and I paid attention to the response. And I was not 100% happy with how it went. And just the sheer volume of them seemed. So I was like, okay, maybe Underground FPV is not doing the best job here. But in addition to that, the firmware updates got really dropped. The firmware development on the Nirvana just kind of stopped. And then, like, right now, some guy is running a GitHub repo. As far as I can tell, this guy is not associated with Underground FPV or FlySky. It's just a passion project. And as far as I'm concerned, that means this radio is basically dead. Because you don't want to buy a radio and find out that the one dude who's working on the GitHub got hit by a bus and now you'll never get firmware updates ever again. So that's why you don't hear me talk about the Nirvana very much. In fact, I kind of forget that it exists. Anyway, Underground FPV, is their website gone? Holy crap. Is that true? No, it's still... What? Oh my gosh. This is not Underground FPV's website. They sold their website. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my goodness gracious sakes. Let's look at the Wayback Machine. Come on. When did it change? No, where's the Wayback? Give me the Wayback Machine. Oh my goodness gracious. So you guys may not know this, but if you have a website or a YouTube channel or a social media channel with any amount of traffic, you can just sell it. Like, I learned about this. My wife had a blog that she worked on for years. And at a certain point, she was getting a fair amount of traffic. And she would make a couple $100 a month in ad revenue. She just had Google ads. And after a while, she stopped updating the blog. And after about 2 years, but she was still getting a few $100 a month in ad revenue, just coasting on the old, like these 5 posts that she made would keep getting traffic. And, you know, she was like, okay, get a couple $100 a month. Eventually, she was like, this is dead. I'm going to see if I can sell it. And she sold it, this website that was basically just coasting for 2 years with no updates. And she got like a few $1,000s for it. It had enough traffic that somebody bought it for a few $1,000s. And what did they do with it? They turned it into one of these sites. What this is somebody bought this domain from the original owner, and now they're just basically turning it into ad. Like maybe this is affiliate links. Maybe this is like I have ad. Let's turn off my ad blocker and see what happens. Okay, should I reload? Like, are there ads all over this page? No, there's no ads. This looks to me like somebody bought this site and then just populated it with a bunch of clicky articles. Maybe they're doing affiliate links. I don't know. Or is it affiliate links? 4 days ago. Who's doing... Yeah, Amazon links. Bingo. Look. So this is Amazon affiliate links. So this person is just trying to get Amazon affiliate links off of... So Underground sold their site is what it looks like to me. Holy crap. Well, that's it. They're officially gone. Damn. Oh, is it playing audio? Sorry, guys. No, it's not. All right, there you go. Wow, there you go. So if you see a website that you used to go to, and then all of a sudden it looks like a blog with a bunch of affiliate links, the owner sold the site. If I ever go out, I mean, I'm going to sell my site. But I'm not going out, so it doesn't matter. Do you know if the DJI goggles will support head tracking one day? Asks Jean-Baptiste Calame. I don't think that's likely. I'm not sure that the DJI goggles have an accelerometer in them, and I don't know what kind of interface they would need for head tracking. that is not something I have heard DJI when I talk to DJI engineers every seldom, but not never. I don't hear that that's anywhere on the list. You never know, because DJI has surprised us in the past, but I wouldn't count on that. Michael Lundgren just looked at Futaba radios for the first time. Their best radio is $3,000, but they do have a budget-ish radio. They have like I don't remember the model number. It's like a $300 radio. Not bad for Futaba. I have a Nirvana. I've thought that what I should do with my Nirvana is I should do one last video where I document how to update the firmware and then do a giveaway. Maybe. Sunny FPV, thanks for $2. How is the DJI rapid fire mod latency? It's fine. The AV latency, I mean, I haven't measured it in terms of milliseconds, but DJI basically fixed the latency problem on the AV input in a firmware update. It's fine. I know many people who are using the DJI goggles as their primary analog goggle now, especially now that you don't even have to mod the goggle. For example, this little guy here is just a bolt-on circuit board that lets you put the module on the side of the goggles. It's pretty slick. You don't even have to really mod it. It's fine. That was the final straw. I would say that right now, like people ask me, should I get an analog goggle or the DJI? And the thing is, the analog goggle can't do high def, but the DJI goggle can do analog. So if you want to do it all, DJI is viable as your full-time analog goggle. Now, the thing about the DJI is the screen on the HDO, on any of the OLED goggles, the screen is way better than the DJI goggles. Just OLEDs are better than LCDs. But overall, if you want to fly in HD, the DJI is obviously the viable option. Dank FPV, thank you for $5. Oh, I already read yours, Dank. That's it. We're caught up. James Long says, is it worth replacing my Tyrannus backboard, or should I just use Crossfire? I think the board is fried. I mean, James, for me, I still have 2.4 gig quads all over the place. Tiny Whoops come, and they're 2.4 gig receivers. I just don't have Crossfire receivers in every single one of my quads. So for me, I would replace the backboard. That backboard on the Tyrannus radio, the X9D specifically, has fried so easily. It's so annoying. But yeah, I would probably replace it. Omar Little wants to know if there's a way to plug the DJI goggles into the DRL simulator. No, Omar, the DJI goggles do not have HDMI input. They don't have it. So, Nick Schwartz in the Discord is pointing me to this video from Gal Kremer. I'm not going to just play Gal. It's a 2-minute video. I don't want to just steal Gal Kremer's content, but I'm kind of curious what Nick thinks we should see. So, all right, Gal, I'm gonna play your video on my live stream, Gal. Please don't copy strike me. Gal won't copy strike me.
Here's an important quick update video regarding the DJI HD Goggles Analog mode, which I have recently reviewed. In order to properly compare the Foxy Wildfire with the Emergency Rapid Fire, I decided to mount these two modules on the DJI HD FPV goggles using the external mode, and I recorded the internal screens using two GoPro cameras. Before conducting the test, I updated the goggles to the latest available firmware using both RX models. When the signal gets very low, the DJI black screen is going to appear on the screen, and on some cases the image is going to get stuck and the video feed is not going to be recovered. In addition, the DVR function is not very reliable, especially when the signal gets low. Either getting the DJI HD FPV goggles and still fly your analog quadcopters. I don't think that it's recommended to ditch your old FPV goggles.
Yeah, okay. Gal is not wrong about that. The one remaining weakness of this analog mod is that when you lose sync, you get the DJI screen. That is true. You're really going to benefit from something like Rapid Fire, which helps keep that sync going as long as possible. That being said, I mean, if you're really pushing to the edge of range, then you are going to find that the DJI will let you down sooner than the HDOs. I still think for someone who is Say that you're a typical person and you're going to buy one set of goggles, and you ask the question, what should I buy? There's two questions you have to ask yourself. Number one is, am I in the $600 price range? Okay. If not, then DJI is not an option. You're buying analog goggles. Fine. So let's assume that you're in the $600 price range. Now ask the question, do I ever want to fly HD? And if the answer to that is yes, then you're going to be leaning towards DJI. And you still can fly analog. I mean, few people, I don't think there's a lot of people out there who would spend $600 on a DJI system and then another $300 on an analog goggle. More power to you if you can. I am very, very fortunate as a reviewer that I can have the best of both worlds. I feel like the DJI goggles with the AV input is viable, but as Gal is right, that it's not as good. If you primarily want to focus on analog, then the HDOs, for example, are going to hold signal longer and have a better looking image. Haschenberg says, should be an easy firmware fix. I mean, I would hope so, Haschenberg. Maybe. It's plausible that they could fix that in firmware. Yeah, the key thing is that when the signal gets very, very weak, the Fat Shark just goes to static. It never goes to like a blue screen. Eventually, the DJI goes to that DJI logo, and then it doesn't recover as fast as you might hope. Yep. Oh, Kareen wants to see the cricket shirt. I got this through Quadbox. Stored@rotoriot.com. There we go. So a long time ago, I used to do subscription box reviews, and I stopped doing that because there's a box, it has things in it. Who cares? But I still get Quadbox every month. I don't think they've noticed that I've stopped doing the reviews. They still send me a Quadbox every month for free. And so here's how I justify that. Because I'm like, yeah, okay, I like free t-shirts. I wear the t-shirts on stream. I mean, I think they're cool t-shirts. And you can buy these t-shirts at store.rotoriot.com. There, see, now I've justified for the next month getting Quadbox for free. Thank you, guys. So is Crossfire the way to go for long range? Yes. Yep, pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, nobody tell them that I stopped doing those reviews. I don't think they've noticed. I'm just on a list. They just send me one every month. If they ever notice, they'll stop sending them. Or they'll be like, hey, when was the last time you did one of those Quadbox reviews? And I'll be like, I wear your t-shirts, though. That's good enough, right? DJ Pop has HD3 goggles. Does it work to upgrade to anything new? HD3s are good goggles. They're good goggles. James Long, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Thanks for all you do for FPV. Thank you, James. I do my best to try to be useful. What's the best 5-inch to begin with? Asks Damas Grande. That's a tough one. Let me check this awesome website where there's a section on ready to fly and bind and fly drones. This is my website, fpvknowitall.com. Okay, so like the Eachine Wizard is the one that a lot of people start with, but it's not a good one. The Aris X220, that one with a QX7, what does it come in at? It's under $300 with a QX7. I feel like this is a pretty damn good value. Is it the best? I mean, if you want a ready to fly, I think you're going to struggle to do better. What about 5 inches? 5 inches, the iFlight Sedora. Holybro Copus. I'm not sure the Copus should be your first one. Maybe the iFlight Sedora is the best choice. Yeah, I guess I would have to go with the iFlight Sedora. Kyle K says, I'd recommend Futaba over Spectrum. People are talking about radios for Crossfire. I have to say, I like the ergonomics and the build of Futaba more than Spectrum. Spectrum radios are so like big and fat. I know people love them, but I think I would also choose Futaba over Spectrum. Of course, I would never spend that much money anyway. I just have a T16, and I'm happy with it. Can I use my jumper T16 with DJI goggles? Asks Russell, the real estate guy. Russell, you can use the jumper T16 with the DJI goggles, but you have to put a receiver in the quad. If you use the DJI controller, the air unit is the receiver. Personally, my take on it is that if you are going to put an air unit or a Vista in every single quad you own, then consider using the DJI controller. The DJI controller is very nice in that you can set the controller up entirely in the goggles, but the DJI controller doesn't have like advanced mixing. I like that power. Other people find it just complicated and annoying. If you ever are going to have a quad that doesn't have an air unit in it, then you have to have another controller, at which point you may as well just put a receiver in all your quads and not carry two controllers. So, let's see here. Is the Taranis X90 Plus SE worth it? Personally, I feel like if you compare what you get for the Taranis X90 Plus to something like the Jumper T16, I think you get more value for money with the Jumper. That's my personal opinion. I mean, people who watch my stream know that already, though. Thank you, Keel Skis, for 10 pounds in the super chat. Why does Spectrum have less range than FreeSky? Is it RF power? Hugo, I talked about that a while back. I interviewed one of the, I think his name was John Adams, one of the engineers for Spectrum, who, you know, he goes way back developing things like spread spectrum and so forth. And one of the things he said was that Spectrum has focused on the quality of the link. I'm paraphrasing here. That Spectrum has focused on the quality of the link, whereas FreeSky will let the latency of the link degrade and let there be retransmissions in the link. Spectrum maintains a high quality link and never lets the link degrade. But as a result, Spectrum is kind of all or nothing, whereas FreeSky will let the link degrade and the latency goes up, but at least you still have control. That's one way to look at it. Daniel Cole, you want my DJI custom OSD? Daniel, I think I posted that. On my newbie drone smooth build. Yeah. So Daniel, here is Daniel. I can't paste it. I would paste it in the chat for you, Daniel, but I can't. So it is in the video description of that video, Daniel. Austin AME wants to know, what's a good 2.5 to 3 inch frame and motors for a sub 250 DJI Vista setup? Ooh, that's a tough one, Austin. That's a tough one. Like right now, the 3 inch that is on everybody's mind, or is it a 2.5 inch, is the Beta FPV, the 95X. I'm not actually a big fan of those ducted frames, though. And I prefer the unducted ones. You certainly have to be thinking about it. Is an Acrobat going to come in under 250, though? That's a tough one. That is a tough one. What about the newbie drone? No, that carries the whole air unit. Transtech Beetle. What about Transtech Beetle? Transtech Beetle flies great, carries a whole air unit. You don't even have to use the Vista. iFlight DC3. iFlight DC3. That's a good one. The Baby Skull. Yeah, there we go. Yes. Yeah, the Acrobat is hard to get under 250 grams. It can be done, but it's tricky. King Sloth, thank you for 22 Norwegian kroners. Crossfire is the only really reliable option for long range. I basically agree. I mean, there's hardcore long range guys out there who use Dragon Link and love it. I mean, Dragon Link, but Crossfires. Yeah. I'm such a fan of this Beetle. And there's a 3-inch version out as well, although I'm not 100% sure it's under 250 grams. Maybe it depends on the battery. This thing flies amazing. It flies amazing. It's reasonably durable. Carries an air unit, so you get onboard recording. You don't have to use a Vista. You could certainly install a Vista and save yourself some weight. I think I'd be looking at the Transtech Beetle, the iFlight DC-3, and the Baby Skull from frickin' Flynoceros. There we go. Check out the Baby Skull. Look at this little guy. That's cool. Ciotti made a sub 250 gram Acrobat. I believe it. Just as tricky. The Tadpole's coming out in 3-inch too. That'll take the Vista, sure. Sure. Leslie Matthew wants to know, is T16 good for a beginner? T16, here's the thing. If you are into FPV on a long enough timeline, you probably will end up buying an OpenTX radio. That's not 100% true. In fact, there are pilots out there who have gravitated away from OpenTX, like Cricket, whose shirt I'm wearing right now. Cricket, I think, has a Futaba, a Spectrum IX-12, and a Tango 2. I don't think he flies OpenTX. Vanover flies Futaba. Johnny flies Futaba, I'm pretty sure. Schizo flies Futaba. But for average people who don't have the money to buy premium radios, chances are you're going to end up in an OpenTX radio. And the reason for that is, let's say you go, oh, OpenTX is so complicated and hard to configure. I'm going to buy a Radio Master. Whatever. Then you go and look for tutorials about how to set it up, and there aren't any, because nobody else flies it. The thing about OpenTX is that everybody flies it. Is it the best? Is it easy to use? No. It's powerful, but it's complicated and fiddly and stupid, and all you want to do is like freaking invert a channel, and it's 57 clicks, and you're programming a freaking lunar lander to do it. But everybody flies it, and there's zillions of tutorials. And so that's why if you're going to get into FPV, just bite the bullet and buy an OpenTX radio and start learning how to use it. Because that's what everybody else did. What is that? Pineapple Man, what is that? What is that? The Crossfire Pro. What antenna is this? Some kind of printed antenna for Crossfire? Holy crap. What? I gotta get a closer look at this. What is that? No, not that one. That's kind of a cool one too. Yeah, one of the annoying things about Crossfire is the antenna size. Nah, it's the same one. Should just look on Video Aerial Systems website. There it is. What the hell is this? Wow. How does that mount? Wow. Well, if anybody but Video Aerial Systems was saying this, I'd be skeptical, but Alex Grieve does not mess around. Wow. Oh, that's, I gotta get, how much is this? Oh, it's sold out. That's sexy, dude. What? Oh my God, that's the biggest problem with Crossfire, and it may be solved now. That's really cool. To check that out. I'll have to check that out. That's really cool. It says it has no, it's cross-polarized, so there are no nulls. And has the same range as the larger antennas. And most of the time, if some vendor was saying that, I'd be like, bullshit, alert, going off. But Alex Grieve doesn't mess around. So. Let's see. Daniel Cole, I got your super chat. Bad Habit RC, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Is it safe to put a different antenna on my Jumper T16, like the TBS antenna? Will I get more range? You cannot put a Crossfire antenna is 900 megahertz. You cannot put a 900 megahertz antenna on a 2.4 gigahertz radio. You will not get more range. The antenna has to be designed for the frequency. There are some aftermarket 2.4 gig antennas you could get, but there's only so much that they'll do. And if you really want link reliability, Crossfire is the way to go. White Mead, thank you for $10, or Whitmead, thank you for $10. What's the difference in R9mm Flex, ACCST, and Access? Good effing question, Whitmead. Thank you, Free Sky, for making 5 different versions of the same freaking firmware to confuse everybody. Anyway. So, R9 is Free Sky's 900 megahertz system. Long-range control system. Fine. Originally, R9, you would change between EU and FCC regions, because in Europe there's different regulations than the rest of the world. You would change regions by flashing different firmwares. Okay? That was the ACCST firmware, I think. Then they came up with the Flex firmware, and the Flex firmware lets you change regions. Also, I think with the original firmware, if you changed output power, you had to rebind. Anyway, the Flex firmware lets you change region and output power and all that stuff without reflashing, just in software. So basically, R9M Flex is what most people want to be flashing. The Access firmware adds the new Access protocol features to R9. Now, if you want to know what the Access protocol features are, I have a video. What is Access protocol? And in this video, look at that face. In this video, I go over. I'm gonna tag you here in the chat, Whitney. In this video, I go over what Access protocol is and what it adds to the situation. Suffice it to say that Access protocol adds some features related to binding of radios and so forth. And the idea is that now people with R9 could still take advantage of these Access protocol features. Then the final thing, and you didn't mention this, Whitmead, but the final thing is that some R9 modules and receivers can do over-the-air firmware updates, and some can't. So there's R9 OTA, which lets you update firmware without plugging in, just over the wireless link, and non-OTA. So, I hope that's clear as mud. 661 FPV says, my R9 hasn't failed me yet. That's true. There's people out there who swear by R9. My theory is that if you find a firmware that works for you and you flash every receiver to the same firmware, then it just works. My theory is that a lot of people who have trouble with R9 are having firmware mismatches. The problem is not that R9 can't work well. It's that when R9 doesn't work well, it's difficult to figure out why. Like, what firmware is on that receiver? Tell me. Good luck. Whereas with Crossfire, if you have mismatched firmware, it will refuse to bind. And then you push a button and it just downloads the update over the air so that they're always on the same firmware version. It never, it's just plug in and it's done. Simon Saucy says, when I go to the EU, can I just change the Crossfire setting on the radio, or do I have to change the antennas? Simon, TBS sells a single antenna for EU and FCC region. You do not have to change the antenna. However, some people feel that if the antenna is not ideally tuned for either region, and some people in the EU will use a different antenna. They'll cut the antenna down. But you don't have to change antennas. Felix Foils is yelling at me. Felix Foils is yelling at me in the super chat. You ignored my donation. No, Felix Foils. I just haven't gotten to it yet. It has been 8 minutes since your donation, Felix Foils, and you are the very next one I'm going to get to. I just spent almost all the time since your donation answering someone else's donation. Now I've gotten to yours. Don't yell at me. I do miss donations occasionally, and if I miss your donation, I sincerely apologize. I do sometimes miss donations. I try not to do that. Chris E. says EU antennas are longer. Are you sure? Because I remember a guy from the EU posting, he emailed me and was like, these antennas are not tuned right. I don't want to give wrong information. Especially not about TBS, because that just starts a whole lot of shit. Someone emailed me from the EU. Here's the deal. Here's what I know. A guy emailed me, and he had an antenna tester, and he was testing Crossfire antennas, and he said that they were the wrong length for the 868 megahertz. Then he emailed TBS tech support, and TBS said, yeah, it's close enough. We just sell one. We don't sell multiple ones for different regions. That's what I remember. If that information's not up to date, then I apologize. Felix Foils, thank you for five euros. Love your videos. Which Tiny Whoop for 2020? I got the Eachine trash can. Flight controller broke after 5 flights. Yeah. I think the Mobula 6 is the one to get. The beta FPV Meteor 65 is better in a few ways, but overall the Mobula 6 is really good and it's a little cheaper. The flight controller broke after 5 flights. I'm so sorry to say that is just like you just kind of roll the dice when you buy one, and maybe you have to buy another one. These little Crazy Bee flight controllers, just sometimes they're great and sometimes they die for no reason. DJ Pop says the Immortal T. I see. DJ Pop says the Immortal T is tuned middle of the road. But maybe the transmitter antennas are tuned to the exact frequency. That's interesting. The bottom line is it will work. It'll just get reduced range. Definitely change from 915 to 868, though. That will not work. Felix Foils, I got you, right? Mobula 6. Sterling Youngman, thank you for $5. I wanted to set up 2-switch arming. I watched your vid, but I have the Crossfire code in my logical switches already. What do you suggest? So if the Crossfire is logical switches 1, 2, and 3, you just use 4, 5, and 6. The switch number doesn't matter. It doesn't. You don't have to use the exact same. Like if I use switches 1, 2, and 3, you can use 4, 5, and 6. That's no problem. Sterling Youngman. Drone Artist, thank you for 5 euros. I run 2 VAS Ion antennas on my long-range Rebel Yeti. Is this just as good, or is it better to have one, especially tuned for DJI? 2 VAS Ions. No. VAS Ions are going to be better for DJI than the stock antennas. I haven't tested it, but I just would bet good money that Alex Grieve makes a better antenna than DJI. The antennas don't need to be specially tuned for DJI. There's just 5 gigahertz. That's all. Super Deluxe, thank you for $2. Good morning. HQ Productions, thank you for $2. Just want to say thanks. And now I'm caught up on the Super Chats. Krill Krachmalis in the pleb chat wants to know, what capacitor do I need to use to avoid death rolls? Krill, I don't think the death, if you're getting death rolls, it is probably a damaged motor or ESC. It could be that your idle speed is too low, but it's probably not a capacitor. If you have really big or unusual motors, maybe changing DMAG compensation from low to high in BL Heli could help. The capacitor is probably the last thing I would be thinking about if you're getting death rolls. IAKS says, Do you have information on the Radiomaster T16S? Should I wait or buy a jumper now? Wait, because the Radiomaster is priced at $135, I think. The jumper is $160. I guarantee you that whenever the Radiomaster finally hits the market, which could be a month or two, because especially with coronavirus causing China to be on vacation for a long time, when the Radiomaster comes out, like, I guarantee you the jumper is going to come down to 135, right? Clearly. Nobody's going to buy the jumper for 160 if the Radiomaster is 135. So if you can wait a month or two, I would wait. You'll probably save $30 if you do. Best sub 250 goggle. How much is the Skyo 2C? How much is the Skyo 2C? Is it sub 250? There you go. Best goggle around $250, I think, is the SkyZone Skyo 2C. It's a pretty solid goggle. And at $270, I think it beats a lot of $300 goggles that are available today. What antennas do you recommend? Asks David Gregorian. You can check out my website, fpvknowitall.com, in case you didn't realize. Here's my section on FPV goggles, VTX, and cameras. I got that hot new photography from Scarecrow FPV. He was in the chat earlier, working on getting my page swapped over and update. You could tell which photographs he took and which ones I took. Antennas. Luminaire Axie. TrueRC X-Air. Luminaire Axie patch. I also like the Vaz Ion. I got to get that added to the site. I haven't got that on the site. Those are some that would work, that I think would be good. Hey, Scarecrow's still here. What's the best flight controller and ESC stack for the DJI Air unit? You guys are making it too easy. Best flight controller stack for the Air unit? Boom. Boom. Bow. Flight controllers. The Kakute, the iFlight, Newbie Drone. Diatone just put one out. I haven't seen it. I haven't added it to the list. There are many good choices. These are just a few, but these are the ones that I personally have experience with and can recommend. Doesn't mean that the other ones are bad. For example, like T-Motor makes one. Obviously, it's good, right? There's other good ones out there. Best, it really depends on what you need. I got to tell you, I love the iFlight. iFlight is doing a hell of a job. I really like the way they lay out their flight controllers and the options and flexibility they give you with the design. Also, it's got a USB-C connector, so that's cool. But this is the ESC stack. It's $120 for the FC and ESC. That's pretty freaking expensive. King Sloth, thank you for 100 Norwegian kroner. I don't know how many dollars that is off the top of my head, but I know that normally I get 20 or 30 kroner, so I assume that's a very generous donation. In case you guys didn't know, kroner are the currency of Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, if I remember correctly. There are 3 kroner out there, and currently for this live stream, Norwegian kroner are in the lead. Just saying. I think there are different sweet spots for different quad sizes, aka 2 to 3S toothpick, 6S 5-inch, 12S X-Class, and so forth. Lots of talk about 6S toothpicks and whoops. What's your opinion? I got to tell you, King Sloth, I don't understand the move towards high voltage micros. That doesn't mean that means that I'm ignorant, because micros are not really. I mean, I'm slowly getting more knowledgeable about micros, but I'm not on the cutting edge of micros. So my understanding is that the higher voltage gives you like more torque and more efficiency, but 6S batteries are just so big and freaking heavy. And I'm not sure why you need the extra torque of like a 6S setup for a tiny, tiny little 11XX motor. It feels to me like for example, Tommy, oh my God, he flies Acrobat right now on 6S. I can't remember if his motors are like 14 or 15 millimeter size, but he flies on 6S. And if he does that, then there's got to be a good reason. It's hard for me to imagine 6S being meaningful down at like the 12 millimeter size motors. But I always just, when I just look to people who I know are authorities. So like the day that Kebab comes out with a 6S toothpick, I'll be like, okay, there's something to this. The day that Aaron Ciotti says I've got a 6S, 3-inch build with 11XX motors, I'll be like, well, I guess there's something to this. Right now, I'm not sure I see that the power of 6S, the advantages of 6S apply, and the disadvantages. Because here's the thing. As soon as you go to 6S, you're going to be 15% more likely to pop your ESC. I just made that number up. But ESCs are more likely to pop on 6S because the voltage spikes are that much higher. It's one of the reasons I haven't moved to 6S for my main freestyle builds. The last time I bought 20 batteries, because all my batteries were crappy, I was like, am I going to go 6S? And I ended up buying 4S batteries. And one of the reasons is that although 6S does have a performance advantage, it also has a price. And the price is that you're more likely to pop your ESC. It's just a fact. If those FETs are rated for 30 volts or 35 volts, if you're running at 16 volts, you got a lot more headroom than if you're running at 25 volts. And so you got to say, well, is the advantage there? And for micros, I'm not convinced it is. But the minute that people who are smarter than me about micros start saying that it is, I'm going to start listening and paying attention. But King Sloth, you asked for my opinion, and now you have it. I got a 300 ruble donation from I assume, Russian person whose name is spelled with the Cyrillic alphabet, and so I can't pronounce it. So I won't try. Thank you for your donation. Do you have video about the Holybro Pixhawk 4 with BLA32 ESC? Is it possible to use? So I should clarify, I have zero experience with Pixhawk. I do know what Pixhawk is, but I have no experience with the Holybro Pixhawk. I will say, though, does Pixhawk support D-Shot? That's the first question I would ask. And I'm just going to quickly Google that. And here in the Pixhawk user guide, it seems like, yes, Pixhawk does support D-Shot. So at that point, bingo, yes, you can use those ESCs. The only thing to keep in mind, though, is that does Pixhawk support BLA32 pass-through? Looks like it does. No. Oh, that's July 2017. Anything newer? So the two things that I want, again, does not support pass-through and telemetry. This is dated. Where's the date? No date. No date on this one. That's a shame. Wait a minute. Well, this is using pass-through, isn't it? Oh, well, ArduPilot can do it. What about Pixhawk? Iffy. So the two things I want to know is, does it support D-Shot? If it doesn't support D-Shot, then you can still run it with PWM, but it's going to be crappy. But Pixhawk supports D-Shot, so okay, good. Then the other thing I want to know is, does it support pass-through? Because if it doesn't support pass-through, then configuring the ESCs is going to be a pain in the butt. However, what some people do is they just keep a Betaflight flight controller around, and they'll unplug the 4-in-1 plug from the whatever flight controller, plug it into the Betaflight one, real quick, configure the ESCs, and then plug it back in. Okay. It sounds like, yes, it can be done, but pass-through and configuration is going to be a little bit of a pain. Jim BBG, thank you for 110 BGN. I know you've been asked many times about where, how, and what mics to put on the quad, and you denied making a video for it, but I still think it would be so helpful for me and many others. Putting microphones on the quad? I mean, Jimmy, the best thing to do if you want a microphone is to buy a video transmitter with a mic built in. That way you don't have to deal with it. The best mic that I know of is the Rush microphone. And the reason that it's good is that it has automatic gain control. This Rush mic, it's the same people who make the VTX. This is the best aftermarket one, and it's got automatic gain control. DJ Pop points out that Pixhawk is the flight controller, ArduPilot is the OS. Is that true, DJ Pop? I thought Pixhawk was its own OS, separate from ArduPilot, but like I said, I don't know this stuff. Texas dude, thank you for $5. I have the DJI Mavic Pro 2. I'm looking at getting into FPV. Any experience with the Emax Tiny Hawk 2.5? The Emax Tiny Hawk is a great first drone. Highly recommend, Texas dude. Will Strathman, thank you for $10. Is it safe to replace one of my broken 6S 1955-2207 motors with an 1824-2207? Yes, that's fine. A tiny difference, like a 50 or 100 kV difference, you'll never notice. In fact, unbeknownst to most people, if you were to buy like 30 of the same motor, just due to manufacturing variances, there would typically be even 50 or even maybe 100 kV difference between them if you were to actually test them. Nobody notices. So yeah, if you've got 1955 kVs and you need to put an 1824 on, that's fine. I mean, it's best to have the kVs match, but if you need to do that, you won't notice a difference, most likely. The biggest difference will be if you have a much lower kV, the power of the quad as a whole will be reduced. A quadcopter is only as powerful as its least powerful motor. Because if you think about it, let's say you've got one motor that's making this much thrust and 3 motors that are making this much thrust. Well, obviously, the quad's going to flip over, won't it? In order for the quad to stay flat and level, all the motors have to make the same amount of thrust. So if you have one motor, like this mostly happens with a bad ESC, if one of the FETs fails on your ESC, then one motor will be making like 75% thrust. And when you punch the throttle, the quad will go and level out. But it'll have less power overall. Preston Lewiniski, thank you for $5 in the super chat. I just dropped my drone and it landed on a beer can, which exploded. Will the dried beer ruin everything? Okay. Well, Preston, you win the question of the live stream. There's no prize for that, but congratulations. I don't think the beer will be conductive. The biggest problem is with liquid, unless you're talking about salt water. Salt water can be conductive, but even fresh water isn't. The biggest thing you worry about is corrosion, not so much short-circuiting. And that's also true with salt water. Salt water is really corrosive. But most of the time, a liquid is not going to be conductive enough to short-circuit anything. If it did short-circuit it, it would just kind of burn it away. What I would do is I would get some distilled water or alcohol and rinse it. Rinse it in distilled water and then rinse it in alcohol to dry it out or hold it in front of a fan. Don't put it into under power until you're sure that it's completely dried off. If you don't rinse it, I think I don't know, is beer going to cause corrosion or is it just going to attract ants? I really have no freaking idea. But basically, you just want to clean it off and start with fresh. Distilled water is the best because it won't have any minerals in it. Tap water could have minerals in it. It's likely to have minerals in it. Distilled or filtered water, rinse it thoroughly. I mean, at this point, I don't know if I would put it underwater. Because, like, for example, maybe the beer didn't get into the camera case. But if you dunk the whole quad in water, it might. So, yeah, just pour some fresh water over it. Then hold it in front of a fan for a couple hours. Don't use rice. Rice isn't... You guys who use rice to dry out your electronics, a person who works as a professional electronics restorer was like, nah, that's for chumps. Rice isn't how we do it. What you want to do is you want to have it in front of moving air. So put it in front of a fan. And then just cross your finger. Okay. Thank you for that entertaining question. Jonathan Perlow, thank you for $5. My 2S Power Whoop, I get 90-degree left yaw, but only during hairpin turns. No black box. Can it be tuned out or bad gyro? Jonathan, the first thing I would want to know is if it was being caused by your gimbal. Does your gimbal have a problem? So you could test that easily by plugging your transmitter into your computer and trying it on a simulator. If the simulator does the same thing, it's the gimbal. If you have Betaflight 4.1, you can put a stick overlay on screen. And again, you can look at the stick overlay and see if the gimbal suddenly goes. Beesh! The other thing it could be, Jonathan, is a single motor could be dropping out, maybe because your idle speed's too low. So as you dive into that turn, like the innermost motor goes to idle and then stutters, and the quad kind of drops an arm. If it is a pure yaw move, that's more likely to be the gimbal. If it is a diagonal move, that's more likely to be the motor dropping out. You could try raising the idle speed. Like and Livestream, thank you for $2. What's a cheap but good controller? Jumper T16. Easy peasy. I mean, I hate to keep giving that answer. I just feel like that's a good answer. Okay, what else? Cheaper? If you're down in the $100 range, I think the QX7, the original QX7, is a great controller. The X9 Lite is also a decent controller. You're not going to be able to bind a D8 with the X9 Lite, though. So I personally would take the QX7 over the X9 Lite in today's world. Yeah, Simon Saucy, low idle speed. I agree. Here's one, Alpha 2960 in the Discord. Let's show some love to the patrons. The super chats have been coming in fast and hard. I've been trying to keep up with them. I've been ignoring the plebs. Sorry, plebs. And I've been ignoring the patrons. Oh, no. Oh, no. Let's get this question from Alpha 2960. Alpha says, why does my quad do this? Well, let's see what it does. Let me get... where did it go? Where'd that picture go? Open original. Yeah. There it is. Oh, it is a... What the hell is this? What is this? Is this not an image? Is it a... Oh, it's a OneDrive. Sorry, guys. I see. Now I got the video. Here we go. Okay, so the first thing I notice is that sort of shuddery, wobbly sound in the motors. Let's listen to it again. So already the motors sound unsteady. Instead of sounding like this, they sound like this. Okay, so that's telling you that there's too much vibration or too much degain or not enough filtering. Now, that's not necessarily a problem. Like, not all quads are going to have absolutely smooth motors, especially micros. But, so now, do you hear that when he goes to idle, the motors don't go, so you go, okay? When he goes to idle, his motors go, okay? So that's telling us again that there's the PID loop is just overactive. It's hyperactive. And this is probably pointing to excess degain. It might be that the flight controller needs to be soft mounted or is loose. And then we get some shuddering as he comes out of it, but that's just a symptom of the same thing. So that shudder at the end of the roll, that just could be prop wash oscillation because you're descending and you're raising the throttle. That's like normal. There's some prop wash oscillation, but the quad is not moving very fast. So to see that much prop wash oscillation when the quad is moving that slow is right there. There. Prop wash oscillation. Oh, okay. Now we get to the real problem, don't we? Okay, now we lose it. Oh my god. Oh my god. What the hell was that? All right, so the first thing I notice is that this is a diagonal move. One of the questions I ask myself is the quad moving diagonally or front to back? Think about it. You got a quadcopter. It's an X config. If a motor has a problem, it will dip towards the motor that has the problem. Because when a motor has a problem, it stops making thrust and that arm goes down. If you ever see a quadcopter that goes like this, think about it. That can't be a motor problem. Because what are the chances that two motors will have the exact same problem at the exact same time, causing the quad to move front to back or side to side? Likewise with yaw. If you have a quad and it goes bzzz, that's not a motor problem, because the yaw, if a motor has a problem, it will go bzzz and dip diagonally, right? Okay, so this is diagonal, so we're having a motor or an ESC problem. And which motor is it? It's the first arm to dip. Okay, so it's the front right motor, because I believe that goes down first. Let's just double check. Yeah, okay. And also, because we're doing a front flip, the front motor is going to go to idle. And then at the end of the front flip, the front motor is going to have to rapidly spin up from idle. And that will cause it to be more likely to flip out. So the front right motor has a problem. Then the other thing is why, like, what is going on there? I don't know. I feel like I would replace the front right motor, though. That's the first thing I would do. Okay. P gain too high. Well, see, here's the thing. RCing and SC. P gain is always going to act on the pitch, roll, or yaw axis. So if the P gain is too high, you're going to see the quad go bop, 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 bop. It's going to oscillate on the axis. If it's oscillating diagonally, that can't be caused by a P gain issue. That's going to be a mechanical issue in the motor. Think about it. What could cause a diagonal oscillation in the motor? Do you see that a diagonal oscillation is both a pitch and a roll move at the same time? Right? If we only move on the pitch axis, we tilt forward. If we only move on the roll axis, we roll to the right. If we move diagonally, we have to move both the pitch and roll axis at the same time in the same amount. That's not going to happen because the P gain's too high on one axis. I think this is 100%. The first thing I'd do is change the motor. The motor may be stuttering. If it always goes the same direction, then it's definitely the motor. It could be the ESC, but I always replace the motor first. This guy, is he in chat? He's in the Discord. Is the flight controller securely mounted? Popular Mechanics, that's a great one. Popular Mechanics. So here is a PID-related thing that could cause diagonal movement. If the flight controller is not securely mounted, the flight controller could be flapping diagonally, you see? And that would cause the whole quad to move the opposite direction. Yep, that's a good one. X-Terrafim wants to know what ready-to-fly high-def quad to choose for a beginner. The iFlight, the GEP-RC Mark IV, the Flywoo Mr. Crocker, the iFlight Titan. X-Terrafim, I feel like I would lean towards the iFlight Titan because the Titan iFlight has a pretty good track record. I haven't tested the Mark IV or Mr. Croc though, so we have to, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Vidar Lervag. I am pronouncing that with a non-English accent, but I have no idea if it's a correct accent. Thank you for 200 Norwegian kroners. Norwegian kroners way out in the lead now. Went flying today for the first time since October with 2 new builds with DJI Air units. They worked almost flawlessly thanks to your videos. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Vidar. Definitely get that 1,000 milliwatt mod going on that. By 1,000, I mean 1,200. Definitely. Don't run at 25 milliwatts. It's garbage. Broken standoff definitely could cause this issue for sure. Boris asks, what can I do if a motor or ESC works fine on the bench but randomly stops mid-flight? Replace the motor. Then if that doesn't fix it, replace the ESC. I mean, I hate to be a broken record. But like the thing is, you could spend so much time diagnosing, oh, how could I tell if my motor is broken? And every time you, maybe I need to resolder the leads. And then you fly and it crashes. Every time you troubleshoot a broken motor and don't fix the problem, your quadcopter crashes. So, just save yourself the time and the crashes and just buy a spare motor. And if you replace the motor and the quad still crashes, you got a spare motor. Who cares? Just put the motor on the shelf and use it the next time you need a spare motor. All right. Yeah, he's gone. He's gone. School Camel is gone. Sorry, guys. That guy's gone. He's hidden forever. Any concern that the DJI Air unit would pull too much power from the Kute F7 HDV at 1200 milliwatts? I don't think so, 507RC. I think the regulators, I mean, I've been running at 1200 milliwatts. I don't have one with a Kute in it, do I? I think that's unlikely. I don't think that's likely. I think it's fine. James Oxborough wants to know, thank you for £2 in the super chat, James. JBF7 flight controller update. JBF7 flight controller is in the works. In case you're not up on it, I showed you some prototypes months ago, and when it was time to pull the trigger on that design, it had been over a year we had been in prototyping and development on that. And by the time it was time to actually pull the trigger on an order, I said, I don't like this design anymore. We designed this a year ago, and the flight controller we designed a year ago is not the right flight controller to release today. So around November of last year, I said, we're scrapping this and we're starting from scratch. And I came with a whole new design, which is, I think, much better. We're also moving to a different manufacturer. There were some quality control issues with the JBF4 9-volt regulator. Anybody? And we're tired of giving away free flight controllers because the 9-volt regulator died. I'm sure you're tired of the 9-volt regulator dying on you. So the long and short of it is that we got the very first handmade prototype of the new JB flight controller. I teased it on my Instagram. We got that just before Chinese New Year. And then Chinese New Year happened, and then coronavirus happened. So there has been some delay. Where's that picture? Here it is. The next thing that will happen is we'll get 10 or 20 prototypes to test. And then eventually we'll place an order. I would say we're still 2 months away from having these, at least 2 months away from having these ready to sell. That's just a guess. It is coming. I'm very, very excited and very proud about it. But it is not imminent, unfortunately. Swedish Kroner, Hans Gunnars. Thank you for 20 Swedish Kroner. This is it. I learned this trick from another YouTuber I watch. When he live streams, he has the Kroner Wars, and Swedes, Danes, and Norwegians all donate like crazy. I try to see who can be and he just rakes it in. Thank you, Hans, for 20 kroner. Okay. Is Aaron Ciati streaming today? I know he had some personal issues, and I don't know if he's going to stream anymore. I haven't seen him in the chat, so I'm going to guess he's not streaming. But Aaron, if you are going to be streaming, I'd love to shout you out. I'm going to ask him if he's streaming today. Oh, there he is. Yeah, okay. So you guys, we're about 2 minutes away from the end of my stream. Thank you guys so much for watching. I have some great content for you coming out this week. This week on my channel, TBS Tango 2 review, the real review. EV300D review. Project Mockingbird with Emu Flight on the Mobula 6. What? Yes, that's coming this week. And at least one other thing that I can't remember the name of. So, look forward to that. And if you are still wanting to watch some more streaming, Aaron Ciati, post the link to your chat, to your stream. Aaron is going to be streaming this afternoon, taking over at 3 p.m. on his channel, just as soon as I go off the air. So go ahead and post that link, Aaron. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys back here tomorrow, Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Ciati is going to be doing Tyrannus QX7 mods, FPV Geeks Fat Shark Switch, Stan FPV ducts, and a V1 Acrobat repair. Dang, dude. I'm going to paste that link a few more times. And you guys get on with it. Thank you guys so much for coming out. Yeah. We broke 700. We broke 700 viewers, by the way, this stream. I can't remember. Was that the threshold that I was going for? Yeah. Todd Mooser, I am making content about the newbie drone build. I got some flight video yesterday. I'm working on that content, Todd, but the thing is, that in order to really judge those motors, I got to crash them a bit, because all motors are smooth when you first buy them. So it's going to be a little bit before I have more info about that newbie drone build, but I am working on it. That's going to do it, guys. That's going to do it. Go watch Aaron Ciotti's stream if you want more. He's awesome. His content is awesome. I have heard that he swears a little bit much, and he eats on stream. Hey, Ciotti, I'm not kidding you if you're out there. Someone emailed me and said, hey, dude, I want you to know that I can't watch Ciotti streams anymore because he says GD too much and he eats on stream. And I was like, thanks for telling me. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Happy flying, everybody. That really happened.